We're going to begin this hour with a story about dealing with sudden loss. It's something that many of us go through, unfortunately, and it hurts, and everybody fears. The occasion for this story, though, is the second anniversary of the partial collapse of the Champlain Towers condo complex in Surfside, Florida. You remember this story. 98 people died that day and families were broken. Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, was there in the aftermath reporting on this terrible tragedy. And recently, he caught up with Michael Noriega. Who is he? He lost his grandmother that morning. Noriega is now sharing his experience to help others cope. David joins us now from Los Angeles. David, we've been running promos for your piece all week long, and every time I hear this story and the sound bites that you've chosen, I can't wait to see the whole thing. And now it's your turn.
Gayle, Mike is a powerful storyteller. We first met him in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. There was a picture of his grandmother that blew out of her apartment when the building collapsed. The family was given that photo and they held on to it as they desperately prayed that she would survive. 2 years later, we went back to Florida to check on Mike. You know, looking at the wall of names is an ever-present reminder. Look here. I mean, the Patels, that was a family.
Yeah.
98 names. This is the list of the lives lost when the Surfside condominium collapsed. 98 names, and only a fraction of the lives changed forever.
It's beyond devastating. I mean, yes, I lost my grandmother and she was the matriarch of our family, but to see how much bigger that it is, how much bigger the losses and the heartbreak goes, has been so eye-opening for me.
Michael Noriega's grandmother, Hilda, who he called Kima, died when the building collapsed early that June morning.
It's just so surreal to look at that crater in the earth just to see emptiness. That's how it feels in the heart. It just kind of leaves a hole in your soul.
Hilda Noriega, at age 92, was the oldest victim.
I had called her that day, and we were talking, and somebody came and knocked on her front door. I could hear it through the phone. She ended the phone call like this: "Hi, Mikey, there's somebody at the door. I calling you back. Bye, bye." And she hung up. And those were our last words. And that broke my heart, because every phone call I ever remember with her, same thing: "I love you, Kima. I love you more." And I missed out on those last two opportunities for that.
She at times raised you. She was a grandmother and a mother to you?
Yeah, she was like my second mother, because both of my parents are first responders. My father would drop us off at my grandparents' place, and we would spend entire days, we'd spend entire weekends there, where both my grandparents were like my second parents.
Proudly Cuban and a devout Catholic, Hilda Noriega's body was found in the rubble. In her hands, clutched, were her rosary beads.
That's what she would use to pray with. And to think that in my grandmother's final moments of life, that she fell asleep in prayer was such a powerful thing.
Mike, the rosaries were found in her hands?
Yes, on her chest.
It is in those kinds of details that Noriega says he's found meaning, which he writes about in his book, Uncollapsible Soul.
What is the point of Uncollapsible Soul?
So Uncollapsible Soul is about how to go through a broken heart without it crushing your spirit. A broken heart is just a season of grieving. We all go through loss. But a crushed spirit, that's something completely different. A crushed spirit is where you lose your faith, your hope, and your purpose.
Noriega says he found hope in the shared grief with other families who have lost their loved ones.
There's a unity that comes in the community of all the people that have gone through such traumatic heartbreak.
And pain is also what gives you empathy. Empathy is a product of pain.
Absolutely. You know, something interesting that I learned through this whole process, a byproduct of pain is passion. How do you know if you're passionate about something? You're willing to suffer for it.
And you know, Noriega found healing in the tangible reminders of his grandmother. Kima's rosaries were one of just a few items returned to the family in this brown paper bag. And this was the first time he'd held them.
What are you feeling holding them in your hands?
I'm just remembering this moment. It was a very special moment when that happened, because when the homicide detectives first gave my family and I the news, of course we were all weeping because our fear had come true. There's a quote that I love that says, an inheritance is what you leave behind for someone, but a legacy is what you leave behind in someone. And these rosaries were tangible representations of the legacy that she left behind of love.
As we ended, this happened.
I want you to see something.
Yeah? Oh my gosh.
There's sand
I know
in my
what you're about
hand
to say. Wow.
from the collapse site, or dust.
I wasn't expecting that.
Neither was I.
Wow. Wow. I got to tell you, it was a hair-raising moment. I could see the dust, the sand just falling through the cracks of his fingers into the bag. You know, that bag with the rosaries was kept with Mike's dad. Mike's dad is a police chief in the area, and he put them away because it is a precious reminder of their grandmother. And Mike said, "Dad, I'd love to show them to David for this story." The dad gave his blessing, and that was the first time Mike had held those rosaries in his hand.
Boy, David, Mike told a story so beautifully about his grandmother, but the line that stood out to me when he said, gives me goosebumps, a byproduct of pain is passion. I never thought about it that way before.
Yeah, he has a beautiful way of putting grief into words, and he's been something of a beacon of hope for the other families who grieve with him.
I bet.